Hello NCSY, my name is Rabbi David Katz. I'm the director of the MMY Seminary in Israel, longtime NCSYer, and I am very excited to spend this time learning with you Parshat Eikev. This week's Parshat Eikev, continues to talk to us about the long winding journey Bnei Yisrael have in the desert. And we're cautioned that even though we are about to come into Eretz Yisrael, we should always remember the wonderful desert experience that God provided all of our needs. Everything was miraculous. Everything was handed to us on a silver platter. And we should never forget that as we move into an existence where we actually have to work. We should always remember, just like in the desert, everything ultimately comes from God. The Psukim tell us in Perek Chet, in this week's Parsha, Perek Chet, Sefer Dvarim, Pasuk Bet. V'zacharta et kol haderech asher halichacha Hashem Elokecha zar ba'im shana b'amidbar. We should remember the desert experience that God protected us for the 40 years. Pasuk Gimel. Vayachilcha taman asher lo yadata v'lo yaduna otecha. And he fed us this wonderful bread, the man, that took care of all of our needs that we had never, ever seen before. Simlacha lo balta mi'alecha v'raglacha lo baltzeika zar ba'im shana. Our clothes did not wear out. We didn't need to buy a new pair of shoes. Everything was easy. Everything was good. Everything was miraculous. And therefore, Pasuk Yud Aleph, the Torah cautions us, you're going to come into Eretz Yisrael and actually do things for yourself. Therefore, you should always remember that ultimately everything comes from God. And therefore, Pasuk Yud Daled, what's the concern? You're going to become haughty, perhaps, and forget that God provides everything. That it was God who took you through this desert where there was no food and there was no water. And finally, Pasuk Tet Zayin, God forbid, do not forget that it was God who fed you this man, the manna, in the desert. Recently in Parshat Chukot, of course, we're told how we took this for granted. We began to complain about the desert, and in particular, we complained about the lack of water and the lack of regular food. This horrible bread, we called it the lechem haklokel, this bread that we couldn't appreciate and we couldn't digest in a way that was normal for us, and we begin to take this divine intervention for granted. Even more recently on Tisha B'Av and the keynote, this is the example of something that we give of where we're embarrassed about the way we treated God. We said, L'cha Hashem hatzdaka v'lanu boshet hapanim. God, you are righteous and we are embarrassed. You, God, are righteous. For example, you fed us the man in the desert, and we are embarrassed that we called it the lechem haklokel, this horrible bread. How could we do that? You took care of all of our needs. However, if you read the psukim that we referred to earlier in this week's Parshat Eikev a little bit more carefully, if you look inside as I read them, I skipped. I dotted all of them. I pulled out of context the positives. But the Torah gives us a more complex picture. So let's look at those psukim again. Again, Perek Chet, starting with Pasuk Bet. True, you should remember the desert, how God provided for us for 40 years. However, why did he put us into this desert? In order to, literally to torture us. Inui, the language from Yom Kippur, the 5 Inuyim, the things that we do to put us into some level of physical pain. That was what the desert experience was like, in order to test us, to see if we would follow God. And then the next pasuk, he made it difficult for us, and he made us hungry, not just, and therefore fed us the man, but by feeding us the man. It was difficult, and it even led to some continued level of hunger. Pasuk Dalet, that's true. Our clothes did not wear out, and our shoes did not need to be replaced. But Pasuk Hey, and you should know, just like a father sometimes has to discipline the child and make it difficult for them, Hashem Elokecha, God our Father, also at times has to make it difficult for us in order for it to be better for us. And in fact, in Pasuk Tet Zayin, that's exactly what we say. God, yes, he fed us the man in the desert, that our fathers had never seen before. It was great and wonderful. It was miraculous. However, laman anotcha ulaman nasotecha, to make it difficult for us and to test us, lehetivcha ba'acharitecha, that it should be better for us in the long run. I think, therefore, the message for us is clear. We say L'cha Hashem hatzdaka v'lanu boshet hapanim. We're embarrassed that we called the bread lechem haklokel, even though on some level it was lechem haklokel. It wasn't easy bread. The Gemara in Yuma tells us the difficulties of the man. You didn't know from one meal to the next if it was going to be there. You had to schlep out each person according to their level in order to collect it. Although it could taste like anything you would want, which sounds great and wonderful, any caterer will tell you food without the proper taste, smell, the way it looks, isn't going to taste as good. And the man, call it tofu. The man was great and wonderful that you could dream any taste you want, but it didn't have all of the other features that make for food within the human experience. And therefore, on the one hand, man was wonderful and great, but it was also difficult. It tested our emunah. It required our day-to-day belief in God and our day-to-day call to Him. And therefore, I believe the message is obvious. Things in life, even wonderful, great things that come from God, are a mixed blessing. And the trick for us is to pull the good out of the complexity, not to focus on the complexity and the difficulties that are there, but to realize that there's good embedded in everything. God's hand, God's protection is in everything, every day, every minute of our lives, and we should never forget that, even when we don't see it like we did in the desert every minute. But we should expect life to be complex, complicated, difficult, where we have to actually work, and yes, struggle. And that's difficult, but yet to understand God is with us and behind us, and to pull out the good from within that difficulty. If we could recognize the complexity and the package that is the hands of God, then Laka Hashem Atztaka, God, you're righteous, but no reason for us to lanu bosh hapanim, because we recognize you in day-to-day life. I wish you all a good Shabbos. It was very enjoyable to be with you, and please continue to check back on the YouTube channel for more wonderful Torah learning opportunities. Lehitraot.